Hello, Consumer Math peeps. This is Mr. Ebersbach, and we're going to try and go through the entire section 2. That would be Chapter 8, Lesson 2, Estimating Distances, for you guys who are struggling with it. Now, I looked over the material, and I made the decision for some of you guys who may or may not have a ruler at home, and I want you to know that Lesson 2, Exercise A, that's this section right here, I'm going to make this extra credit. Why? Because in order to do this, you have to actually take a ruler and measure the distance between two towns on the map that you use for lesson 1. So if you don't have a ruler, then it's all right. You don't have to worry about it. This is just extra credit. But if you do choose to do it and you have a ruler, then you can definitely measure the distance in inches between one town to the next, and then multiply it by 6 to get your answer. So, we're going to go ahead and skip over Lesson A then. Just a reminder, that is extra credit. And we're going to go ahead and focus now on exercises B and C. So, actually, there is no exercise label on here that says this is C, but it's the only other exercise in this lesson before we move on to lesson 3, so I'm calling it exercise C. So, let's go ahead and take a look. Now, here we have a map we're all familiar with, or should be familiar with, because you're high school students. How could you not be familiar with your own picture of the United States of America? And what we have here are a bunch of lines drawn between the cities. So each line here represents a total distance between one city to the next. For instance, look at Seattle, and we're going to follow along this line, goes all the way to Chicago. And each line has a number that is parallel, aka either on top or below the line. That number that is right next to the line parallel is the number of miles it takes to get from one city to the other along that line. So in this instance, the number here is 2,031. So from Seattle to Chicago, or from Chicago to Seattle, the total distance is 2,031 miles. What you guys are going to do over here in exercise B is you're just going to go from each city. So for instance, number 1, you're going to find Cleveland. There it is right there. And then you're going to look at each city that is up above it. And then you're going to find what is the total distance from, say, Cleveland to each of the cities. In this case, Cleveland to Charleston. There's Charleston right there. And here's Cleveland. So this line straight down is the line we are looking at. And the number associated is 818. So the answer to this section right here is going to be 818 miles. And try to draw as clear as you can, even though this chart here does not have a good box. Ignore the grid paper copy chart on there unless you absolutely have to. You can just fill in your answers right here. But just try to keep it as clear as possible. Don't have bad penmanship and make me wonder, what did you write? So you're going to do that for number 1. You're going to look at Cleveland to Charleston, then Cleveland to the next city, and then so on and so forth, writing down each of the distances from Cleveland to each of these cities. Oh, and by the way, you'll notice that some of these boxes here are shaded darker than the others. That's because technically, if you look, that box indicates what's the difference from Cleveland to Cleveland. Well, literally, it's just like you stand in Cleveland, then you jump up, go back down, and you're there. It takes no effort at all. So that's going to be 0 miles, or you can just box it off, meaning you do not need to worry about finding those because they are literally the same city that we are having a question about. So don't worry so much about what to write down there. You can just box them out or put zeros. Either way works for me. But that is literally all you have to do for each of these problems. Now, in order to do this, make sure that you are paying attention to the mileage map found on page 213 and look very closely at what line leads to what city and what is the mile number that is with that line. And then you'll have your answer. Now, moving on to section C, literally you don't need to do much because what you have to do here is literally in this box. If you have a calculator, it literally gives you the steps, what you punch in order to do it. So here's an example problem right here. Estimate the time for a trip of 350 miles if you average 40 miles per hour. So if you have a trip going of 350 miles and you drive a car at, say, 40 miles per hour, how much time would it take for you to get there? Well, literally, the calculator steps are listed right here. The first thing you do is list how many miles you have, then press the divide symbol, then you type in the number representing the miles per hour, mph, then the equal, and then you'll have your answer. Now, if you want to impress me and add more credit, then if you have a decimal answer, if you want to earn extra credit, you need to know how to take that decimal part of the answer and turn it into minutes, such as the first answer draft here would be 8.75 hours, estimate about 9 hours. However, if you want accuracy, then what you have to do is follow this next series of steps here, and you can use that portion, including the decimal point, and transform it into minutes. And here's how we do it. As I've said, we only need to focus on that part of the decimal. So what we have to do is get rid of that whole number there, in this case 8. So we take our answer that we got there, and we subtract the whole number from our answer. So that's the number that is to the right of the decimal point. No, I'm sorry, to the left of the decimal point, to the left. Once you do that, you'll have a remainder, which is going to be 0.75. Then what you do is you press the multiply symbol and multiply it by 60 because there are 60 minutes in an hour. And then once you do that, your answer will come out as a number that is between 0 and 60. And that will be the number of minutes. So first draft answer, you can have 8.75 hours, but for extra credit earning, where you transform that decimal portion into minutes, it would come out as 8 hours and 45 minutes because 0.75 times 60 equals 45 minutes. So that's how you do that. I hope that this lesson is very easy, and I hope you guys have calculators handy to do this section. As it is in every chapter, the first couple lessons are very easy. So practice this at home, see what you can do, and follow these steps on the calculator, and you will find good answers. All right, have a good one. I'll see you in the next section. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. Bye.